Thank you, Deputy Minister, for your call on matters that are critical, not only technically, but also from the standpoint of the people, the way in which the people are empowered with these technologies, not only in Cuba and the Caribbean. So we'll start with the first panel, that is data governance, sovereignty, equity, resilience, and a term that is being used by the Minister, Regional Solidarity. And for this purpose, let me invite Yarina Amoroso Fernández as a moderator. She is from the Cuban Lawyers Guild. Yarina has been touring Cuba, and he has been sharing her knowledge on AI. We will have the other panelists here. Omara Aldama López, Director of Info Communications on the Finance of the Revolution. Welcome. Also, Ms. María, Esther, Alfonso, Suárez, VP for the Cuban IT Experts Association, Tatiana, Delgado, Fernández, Professor of the Havana's Technology University. Laymi, Puente, Falcón, Director of Business Intelligence from ETECSA, Cuba's telecom company. So we're talking about women's empowerment, and evidence of this is shown here. Yarina, you have the floor. Good morning, everyone. From the outset, I want to thank the organizers of this event for this invitation to moderate this panel. This panel is very important for it is also receiving the material support for what was discussed in the previous panel. That is how can we make sure that the rights are exercised and we can also establish responsibilities, and in particular with the young people and children. And since I'm using the floor, let me just say that more recently, Cuba adopted a children's code, a code for the children, the teens, and young people. And this code establishes digital rights for these age groups, and it also supplements. In fact, we recently also adopted a family code, which also introduces the element of parental responsibility. And these are critical elements that represent legal support, which also need technological support, as the country has identified. For these are our basic tools. We have a constitution that was adopted in 2019 that articulates all of these points, and we also have regulations on technologies and information, and these are enabling elements. And more recently, we adopted a strategy and a digital agenda and a policy for AI. These are important contributions to the Caribbean that brings us together, and we need to stand closer together, particularly in the context of CARICOM and other regional agencies for integration. I am flattered to be in this panel with these women who are all empowered. This is a real representation of women's empowerment. And we have also a lot of men who are making contributions in terms of technology and in terms of talent and professionalism. Let me start with María Esther, who represents the National Association of IT Experts. So these are our technology experts, and María Esther is the senior VP of this association, so she will tell us about the way in which her organization is participating in this country's decision to improve its data governance mechanisms. Morning. I have already been introduced. We will discuss the role being played by my association in the digital transformation of our country, and in particular, data governance. Since its inception, this association has designed a strategy to accompany and support the ecosystem, particularly in the area of internet governance and data governance and other digital technologies for the purpose of managing talents and professionals and facilitate certifications and skills and to all of the members of our association. Our association has more than 8,000 members who are deployed nationwide, and this is a major strength, for we can facilitate spaces for discussion nationwide and at all levels, local, provincial, or national levels, and we also facilitate a space for capacity building and certification, and so we are promoters of innovation and from the society and for the society. We have also become a critical partner for the Cuban government as the ruler of public policies, in particular for the policies on innovation, AI, and digital transformation. Further to our experience and based on our integration with the academia, that is universities, we have played a critical role in the execution of projects, and in particular, projects are particularly in reference to data. Since from the introduction of internet, the question of data exceeds the natural capacities of individuals in order to use data as a strategic resource for decision-making processes. Therefore, there's need for tools and specialization, and because data are very clear, you have the volume of the data, the speed needed for data processing, the variability of the data, the veracity and the diversity of the data. So all of these areas require a structure and specialization and an organization such as so that the data can be of use, it can be productive, and can help governments and businesses and individuals and institutions in their decision-making processes. And so we are working. We are indeed, we are constantly, managing talent, and we are also facilitating skills and competences to assist the government in this project that has been embarked upon, and it will eventually end with a government policy on data. Thank you, Maria, Esther. We have a point here, which is the development of human capital. But in the absence of infrastructure, in the absence of responsible management, then these topics have become compromised. Therefore, let me ask the next speaker, who is the Business Intelligence Direct Manager for ETECSA, this question, that is, what is the role being played by ETECSA in this area of data governance. Thank you for your question. From the outset, let me say a word of thanks for the invitation to attend this panel. It is an honor for me, to be in the company of distinguished professionals. So I am also happy that I am talking about internet governance with women. So this speaks highly about Cuban women's representation in these areas. I represent Cuba's telecom carrier. I have been working for this organization for 25 years, and I have a telecommunication background. And my department is called Central Division of Business Intelligence. When I introduce myself, and when people introduce me, people do not understand the name of my division. And see, what happens is that my division, deals directly with data governance. We have had interesting sessions here in which we have heard about the fact that internet governance and infrastructure and AI, in all of these areas, the data are present. But let me reaffirm, the role being played by ETECSA in an inclusive data governance, and we have a responsibility. And this is a responsibility that we implement jointly as a team, so that we can reach out to all of those areas in which, because we still have areas of silence, and we also and 86% of our villages, have connectivity, and so this is an element that is cross-cutting to all of the topics that have been discussed here, and this is why we need to continue to work to upgrade and modernize our technology base, from our organization, of course, and of course with regard paid to safety and security. Let me tell you about my experience on data governance from the viewpoint of my operator. That is, since we are a public operator, a public carrier, we focus on our services, but there's also need for digital transformation internally and data governance, within our organization. And there are 4 points that I wanted to raise here, because all of us, are governing data from our positions. For example, we need to identify the data, that is the data that goes across our organization and which represents strategic for decision-making processes. Sometimes when we talk about who owns the responsibility for the data transmission, people say operations or marketing, and so we needed to establish the data and see where the data was located. Another element was security. That is, the data must be secured, and we have been working hard on this. And of course, further to the personal data law was passed in Cuba, we have been working on the updating and upgrading our systems, and in particular, human capital. We have been training our human capital base in our organization in order to meet our targets, so that data governance becomes a strategic process in our organization. Thank you. So we have heard about human capital. We have heard in a perspective of human capital from the company that supplies technical services, but the data governance is not just technical; it is a social approach because the data serves us all and help make decisions and for the exercise of rights and there's something that moves us all, which is sustainable development. And in this respect, let me ask Omara, who represents the Cuban government here, and she also plays a critical role as Director of Information and Communications at the venue of our Cuban government, that is the Palace of the Revolution. That is, what is your outlook and what has been the progress that's been made and what are the prospects of data governance and in support of decision-making processes here. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for this invitation, to be here with you. The data have become a recurrent topic in all of the scenarios where we discuss the progress of technologies and digital governance. The data are always present. Further to what has been discussed by our colleagues here. In particular, as Yarina was saying, data governance is not just a technical topic. From a governmental standpoint, it is an indispensable pillar, and its availability helps a better government. That is a more efficient government, a more reliable government, and this is why the data are so important for government operations. The preceding speakers have spoken about decision-making processes. That is, to govern. The government means to make decisions, and you need to make decisions that are fair and efficient. And in order to do that, we need to have properly governed data, because you need to govern from evidence rather than intuition, and therefore we need to manage resources, particularly in our countries where resources are scarce, and therefore we need to cut costs and we need to save costs and in a manner that we can also develop our countries and also monitor the performance of our strategic objectives and implement and public policies based on the appropriate data sets, and in order to make good decisions, in order to have a good performing government, we have a good data governance so as to facilitate all of these processes. And the next point is government efficiency. So that is good governance promotes interoperability and the sharing of data amongst different institutions. And once you can be successful in this, then the public and the government-to-government processes, as well as the relations between the government and the individuals, are carried out better. And we have processes in Cuba, examples in Cuba of this. For example, we have a new website which is called Soberanía or Sovereignty, which allows for the interoperability of data among different institutions. We also have another organization that has been doing a fine job in terms of promoting local development, and these are two success stories that can be examples of this. So governing with the support of good data means governing better, because good governance helps them make good decisions and meet the government objectives as public servants, which is to satisfy the needs of our public or our society. Thank you, Omara. We are discussing the development and improvement of our rules and regulations. So we have a law on the protection of personal data, and we have a law on the access of information and transparency. And since and if we can add to this infrastructure and human capital, then we will be able to meet our targets in terms of sustainable socioeconomic development. And there is an ingredient that is missing here, which is innovation. That is how we can get the best from what we have, at the shortest period of time. So we need to generate value in this. So let me ask Tatiana. Tatiana is a professor from our Havana in Technology University, which is called CUJAE in Spanish, and she's also the VP of the Cuban Association of IT Experts, and that is so. What is the importance that is being attached to innovation in the data governance? So,
Thanks, Yarina. And we would like to thank all of the organizers for allowing us to be here. I would like to speak about this data governance to be able to focus on open data because of the importance of data for innovation. So with innovation, we can make artificial intelligence. We can also do entrepreneurial business information. And this is a common asset that we generate together with organizations that might be available so that can be used in the best possible way in an ethical position. And I would like to speak about 4 perspectives related to this open data governance. First, as Yarina said, in a legal framework. It is true that there is a data protection policy and transparency, but we also need to have a comprehensive law on open data, enabling us to have licenses as well as using the information ethic and also inclusiveness, including people, and also how to be able to finance all that data to be used with the people, by the people, because people is the ones you work for, but also to be used by our institutions and to create values, as Yarina said. Secondly, and it's also important, and we have the Deputy Minister here, Eileen, who has been working in interoperability. It's important to have rules of technical interoperability, both with data information. It doesn't mean that we have to work all of us the same way. All institutions might have different models and different patterns, but we need to have standards to be able to get together, to work together with other institutions, and also to have libraries to be able to be used. Those are important matters to consider. I would like to highlight something because in this short presentation of mine, I would like to speak about some examples that happen in Cuba. The space infrastructure data that used to be closer to the legal framework, to collaboration. But today we have to say that thanks to Cuba and some other entities, we have space data infrastructure that publish data with international standards and also with the standards established domestically. And they deal with agriculture, with sugar ministry, with civil defense to reduce disasters and the impact of natural disasters. And we have to work a lot, and we apply that. We are not so far of that interoperability. So we have to visualize those experiences. A third issue is related to the technological infrastructure. Our colleague from ETECSA, she has been very accurate in explaining us the need to have an infrastructure of communications, but we also need technological infrastructure to democratize the access to data. For instance, services platforms. And just speaking about ETECSA, I would like to mention something, which is a service platform for the Internet of Things. But those services are used not only to manage in a compound way the data of the Internet of Things. We can also manage information from any heterogeneous source of data, as well as the standards. Those are technical policies we need, and we still need also to have semantic all these issues. Yeah, the ecosystems of innovation. I also have my veteran colleagues, highly experienced colleagues on this topic, because without innovation we cannot create public values. So it's very important to open cooperation, and there is a good example of informatic people, which are the innovation and digital transformation laboratories, which are called in Cuba collab. But there are in 5 provinces, and we are planning to open much more labs of this kind in the country. And this kind of development is included in the 2030 development agenda. So it's important to have a database, and we need 4 main elements: access and use of data. Access, because we need to have a democratized system of data. We need to facilitate access. We can have a lot of countries that have data portals totally open, but we never know when those are used. So per se, it does not create values. You have to foster that. Second thing I would like to mention is the digital ecosystem, and for me the most important thing is collaboration between all those stakeholders. Thank you very much. Thanks, Tatiana, that has been giving us a perspective, and I believe out of the issues tackled in this panel, we see that we need a balance between the use of data and the responsibility to protect that information. Is not the protection per se, but the responsibility to protect in the hands of everyone that have information. People have to protect their own data. Entities have to protect their information, and others' information. So we cannot sacrifice the development of society, because we also need to protect those that information. So that is our responsibility. So in these regards, we might be taking hours to talk about this. So we have tackled all these issues. So I would like to ask all panel members for them to give me one of the challenges on how to deal with data in Cuba. Please, one word, just short phrase for that. I'm gonna tell you 2 words: surveillance of data productivity. From the viewpoint of the operator, I would like to say interoperability. It's a word that puts together the role that we played in issues associated to governance of data. I might say, if my chief Wilfredo allows me, that I would like to take the name of the portal: sovereignty and trust. And I was afraid that my word might be used in advance, but I'm going to say something which is disruptive. Hackathon. Because it's a marathon of hackers. Many people are persecuting, going after data. Any question? Anyone would like to ask questions? 1, 2 questions. So let's take the photo. The traditional photo of the panel. At the beginning, I was saying I was very grateful for the perspective of the panel, but most of all, I would like to thank the passion these women have for what they advocate for.
Muchísimas gracias, de verdad.
Thank you very much. I say that as something that also comes from social sciences. There is a vision, dialogic, ecosystemic, and humanistic link with other sciences, something we need to be focused on human beings in people, in individuals. We have a lot of talent that might be using this data with sovereignty and intelligence.